I mean, from what you're telling me, Russian methodology kind of insists upon this method, or insists upon. Okay.
To the point that before major competitions, a multiple world or Olympic champion sometimes won't even wrestle.
Hi everyone, this is Rama Reddy. I'm joined by David Mendelsohn in Hamburg. He is an incredible wrestling coach, also a competitor, still competes, just got his brown belt, very happy for him. And today we're going to be talking about
the fact that in every jiu-jitsu practice would typically have about an hour and a half of time, and about close to a half an hour of that is wasted with a warm-up, typical gymnastics moves and such things. And I find it much more effective to use that time to immediately start going over effective technique.
This fits really squarely into like coaching practices or pedagogy or the art of teaching. I mean, I do the same thing. I actually I do a very short kind of 5 or 6 minute warm up just to make sure like everyone's hips and back is warmed up enough to go, and then I kind of get them into reviewing. So yeah, go ahead. I'm interested to hear someone that agrees with me.
Okay. Well, first of all, even in wrestling, many wrestling clubs all over Canada and the US do the typical running around, gymnastics, circling, and it's good, I guess, team building perhaps, that you have a routine you do every single time, but it really wastes the time of an effective practice. And in addition to that, in jiu-jitsu, I've noticed it's become a bit of a cult thing. It's like I watch the specific moves they do. They can be very complicated to follow. And then once you've learned how to do those complicated moves to follow, you're kind of part of that club. You're kind of in. Everyone's smaller. It helps the newbie learn how to do it. But they really, they might claim that sometimes you get in positions in jiu-jitsu that resemble that. I don't know if I've ever seen it actually. But the fact remains it's a cultish thing. And I like that you do the 5 minute warm-up thing. I would say eliminate the warm-up altogether. My athletes, I say show up 5 minutes early and do whatever you want to do. And I try and do technique. I think you're with me.
Yeah.
Technique that effectively loosens all the muscles that need to be loosened. So you'll start off with a duck under that actually works your neck and your hips, and followed by let's say a single leg, which again is not too hard on your body, and you can repeat that movement 20-30 times, and then followed by a double leg shot, followed by something that's it's a bit easier on the body, a shoulder throw, let's say, for speaking wrestling. And by the time that 20 minutes has passed, everyone has a nice sweat going, they're thoroughly warmed up, and they've added 20 minutes of technique time, repetition, that will help them in their fighting. And that would otherwise never be replaceable in a regular warm-up. So my athletes, by every 3 practices, have an additional hour of technique over everybody else.
Okay, and then so here's, I think, the common counter you might hear from, I'd imagine would be like a sports scientist's point of view. When you do a warm-up, you have something regular and consistent in terms of resistance to a given muscle group. So then, if you're hitting duck unders, for example, you might be very much going towards the right side over and over again, and then your left side doesn't get warmed up to the same amount, or it gets overworked, and then you kind of end up with imbalances. And maybe if you go into, if you're going live, those imbalances might exacerbate or make more likely an injury.
Yeah, I would never scoff at anything the sports scientists have come up with research. I would just answer immediately that none of our warm-up exercises ever address that imbalance either. Rolling one way, rolling the other way, coming up into a certain step or shrimping doesn't work any specific muscles either. The thing you're talking about, which I agree with, has to be remedied with an additional workout. Weights, working out your body. So, both with weights, without weights, specifically to address those issues. I don't think the two are related at all. But I understand. I've heard the argument. I don't buy it. But what I can say is personal observational evidence from my team, which was a Russian coach, where I've trained for 20, 30 years of my life, and every other team I've ever watched that doesn't do warm-ups, none of us have. We very rarely have injuries, number one. We do our warm-ups for competition, but our warm-up for competition is again technique. And again, the technique we do eventually becomes situational fighting. So first you warm, and then you work on the same. So let's say you're doing a single leg, you have to do single leg obviously on both sides. If you're talking about a symmetrical workout, that does get addressed in fighting. And we do the same thing in jiu-jitsu on ground fighting as well. We hit the same situations over and over again, so the person's body gets used to the movement. We ask the partner to slowly increase resistance from 5 to 10 to 15 and allow the person to figure it out. But there's never allow time wasting. Each person has to do their technique immediately. Within 1 or 2 seconds of holding, they go for their move.
But let's say for jiu-jitsu, you're teaching a jiu-jitsu class, you skip the shrimps, you skip the rolls, you skip the bridges, and then you go straight into like just slow rolling.
Yeah, but I don't skip it. I do for my jiu-jitsu classes. First of all, as you know, I believe wrestling is part of jiu-jitsu.
Yes.
My jiu-jitsu class so my jiu-jitsu classes do both. We do the duck unders with gi and without gi. We do the arm drags with gi, always within these practices, and then we also do the groundwork. We do the various let's say the various passes we work on as part of the technique, and we slowly increase resistance on both sides. And same with moves that also incorporate tripping, bridging, all the stuff. So a typical practice would do that. And then by the time 20 minutes is done, my athletes have done an incredible amount of technique. Just review, which is not another problem, by the way, if you don't mind me segueing for a moment.
No.
Most jiu-jitsu practices don't insist on the same review of the same moves every single practice. And so another remedy to this problem is if you have 5 or 6 base techniques, both standing and on the ground, that your guys have to do every single time, as a coach that you know to be instrumental to fighting. Again, by the time a few months goes by, your athletes have done these moves hundreds of, if not thousands of times, whereas the rest of the jiu-jitsu world has not even repeated them once or twice. They might have done it there, they're taught by a coach, but they forget it.
Exactly.
So it's the sheer repetition. Your body, as you know, your body muscles just get used to it. You can fold yourself into the moves almost like an amoeba, and eventually you can get all 5 moves replaced with a whole new 5 moves that becomes your specialty. But in the meantime, the first 5 moves you've done for so many hours. They're also part of your repertoire. So in a fight, I find myself all the time coming back to a move that I might have done 2 years ago. But that move I did 2 years ago, I did hundreds and thousands of times.
Yeah.
Again, those 20 minutes of warm-up, coming back to our theme, is invaluable. It just gives you incredible expertise over a move that some so-called expert that might claim to know it can never possibly know. They can't feel it.
I mean, from what you're telling me, Russian methodology kind of insists upon this method. Or upon. Okay.
To the point that before major competitions, a multiple world or Olympic champion sometimes won't even wrestle. So like a few weeks before, they just come and they do their technique easily. They do repetitions, light repetitions, a bit of light sparring maybe, and they go home all relaxed and they fight these incredibly tough competitions and come out winning. This muscle memory, this muscle repetition can't be stressed enough, in my opinion.